Everybody. I know that I'm doing this kind of late, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it earlier, and I did see that there were some people that were online, so we'll just see how this goes. So, as you guys can see, the title of this live stream is Product Liability. Their children are nobody's business, but everybody's problem. Now, I just want to start out by talking about the fact that children are not born in isolation. When people have children, they will consume finite resources, they will occupy housing in a competitive market, they will compete for jobs, wages, educational opportunities, medical care, and public infrastructure. They will use roads, schools, utilities, and emergency services, which are funded by the public. They will eventually vote, which I talked about voting, how increased population actually dilutes the power of an individual vote. But even aside from that, I believe voting is an act of violence because you basically use your vote to impose your will through state violence. So everything that you support, every leader that you put into power is basically going to impose your will through violence. Even if you don't get your way, you're still legitimizing the system. There's going to be laws, cultures, institutions, and moral direction imposed on you by the state. When you are around children, you are expected to police your language, regulate your behavior. Even there are people who believe that you shouldn't even be entitled to live your lifestyle because you may have a bad influence on children. So you're not allowed to be gay or bisexual or transgender because their children might see it. This is what these people believe. And it doesn't stop at childhood. When you're in a work environment, you are expected to absorb your coworkers' workload because they have children. They have to leave early. They have appointments. They will assume that they have priority when it comes to taking vacation. They always, oh, I have my kids, my kids, my kids. And so because you don't have any children, you're basically expected to sacrifice. You're almost being punished to not have children because now it's almost as if your personal time is not valuable. Let me make sure that my audio, okay. Well, I have more people here than I expected. Never mind the fact that they do get tax incentives to have children. They'll get tax credits. Many people don't pay taxes at all because their tax credits actually exceed what they pay into the system. So they're not paying any taxes at all. You're subsidizing their lifestyle, even though they consume a disproportionate amount of public goods. They will be putting their children in public school. They will be receiving more benefits from the system than you receive, even though you put more into it. And yet they do condemn those of us who don't have children as if we're not contributing anything to society, when in fact we are subsidizing their procreational lifestyle. So procreation is not a private act, especially in a civilized society. If you were in a state of nature and you decided to have children, fine. There is no system that extracts, that redistributes wealth, that imposes laws through violence. But it is an entirely different thing when you are in a civilized society, when you have a state that imposes obligations, costs, restrictions, and expects you to adjust your life to accommodate other people's lifestyle choices. So the claim that reproduction is nobody's business is just patently false. It actually affects everybody. And I wish it wasn't so, But this is the reason why my book does focus not just on reproduction, but also on statism. This is why I'm an anarchist, because what you do as an individual does affect everybody. And so there are people, like I've said many times, there are people who are incompetent to make decisions for themselves. And so the state just assumes that everybody's incompetent and takes away everybody's rights. So to say that it's nobody's business is a fantasy. I don't agree with this necessarily, but the way society looks at it is it takes a village. So even if I don't have children, it's almost as if I'm still responsible for other people's children. Now I live in a house. I'm single, but guess what? Their children are going to come on my lawn, or they're going to make noise and disturb me. It is what it is. Um, I understand that children give people joy. I understand that. I'm not even going to get into detail about antinatalism right now. I just want to debunk the notion that it does not affect other people. That it's nobody's business. How about when I'm trying to go to work and they impose restrictive speed limits because there are children trying to go to school, and they will block traffic to let the children go by? I understand that there's a need to protect the children. I'm just addressing the notion that it's nobody's business. Of course, it's my business. You are preventing me from going to work because your children have to go to school. You're getting special protection and special privileges for your children. Nobody's giving me any special privileges to cross the street. Nobody's blocking traffic for me. Now, they will try to negate the harm that is caused by their decision to procreate. They're going to say, oh, my child is going to become the next doctor. My child is going to become the next president. My child is going to cure cancer. And they say these things as near certainties. They present the optimism bias as fact. And if any of these things come to pass, of course they're going to take credit for it. They're going to say, oh yeah, my child became a doctor because of my parenting. My child became this. They're going to take full credit for it. But if the opposite happens, if their child grows up to become a monster, oh, it's not my fault. It's, oh no, I was not solely responsible for raising my children. It was society. It was the television that I set my children in front of. It was the school, the education system that I put my children in. All of these external factors are responsible. Now, all of a sudden, they want to disclaim any responsibility when, if the outcome was good, then they would have accepted all the responsibility. Because if their child becomes a monster, oh, that's not their fault. If they become the next Hitler, oh no, that's not my fault. You know, Hitler had parents. Every person, every criminal has parents. They grow up, they shoot up the community, they terrorize their neighbors. Who created these people? Parents. There are narcissists who go around stalking people, terrorizing people because they're bored, because they need narcissistic supply. They're maladjusted. All the psychological studies show that personality disorders are developed in childhood. So for whatever reason, you created a dysfunctional child who end up to become a dysfunctional adult. People act like your childhood has nothing to do with your behavior in adulthood. It absolutely does. Every person in the criminal justice system, which I'm going to call it criminal injustice because it's not necessarily fair, but those people who end up in prison, they all have parents. And not to shame people for their own poverty, but I'm not shaming I'm not shaming those who are homeless. I'm shaming the parents in this particular live stream. All those people on the streets who are homeless, who can't feed themselves, they had parents. And guess what? We're expected to feed them. I go to McDonald's, I'm in a driveway. Guess what? There's about 2 or 3 people circling my car, banging on my window for me to give them money. I can't leave because there's a car in front of me, there's a car behind me, and I have to deal with this. Again, I'm not shaming them, but this is not something that people consider when they procreate. Wait. You said that your child was going to become a doctor. You said he was going to cure cancer. No, he's actually standing outside of my window, banging on my window for me to feed him. Because why? Because you didn't create a family trade. You thought you were just creating a child. You didn't think that your obligations extended beyond the age of 18. You did not have a plan. You just winged it. You thought that your child was going to be so productive, and now they're not. And now it's society's problem. Now we all have to deal with it. Now your child is on drugs. Your child is stealing. We're being terrorized by your damn children. So your child did not find a cure for cancer. In fact, your child is destroying the health of those around them. They're destroying their mental health. They're committing crime. They're committing violence. They may be narcissists in the workplace who is making everybody miserable. So your dream of becoming a parent has become other people's nightmare. But wait, I thought you said it wasn't our business. It's not our business, but it's like you reaped all the benefits. You wanted to have a child. I guess you got something out of that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it. But why is it now our problem? Why do you now want to lobby the legislature to help your children, to extract resources to go into your household? You want SNAP benefits, all these women on TikTok talking about how the government won't feed their children, talking about how we need better schools. There's too many children in the schools. It's overpopulated. The teacher to student ratio is too low. You need more teachers. Who's paying for that? Now, in the law, there is something called product liability. It says that if you manufacture something and the thing that you manufacture causes harm, you bear responsibility. This is your product. It doesn't matter what your intentions were. You can't disclaim the product that you chose to create if your product malfunctions, if your product is defective. The liability falls on you. And there's 3 categories of product liability. There's a design defect, manufacturing defect, and failure to warn. And I'm just going to briefly go through each one of these. Let's start with the design defect. When a parent knowingly carries predispositions towards violence, addiction, severe mental instability, or cruelty, and then passes that blueprint on to their children, they have introduced risks into society that we must now absorb. A lot of these behaviors are not first generational. There's a pattern. A lot of these children who are narcissistic, they have parents who are narcissists. A lot of these parents who commit crime, they came from parents who were criminals or neglectful or some kind of way. Or maybe it is genetic. I don't know what it is. It could even be the fact that you have disabilities. those are genetic a lot of times. And society has to pay for it. Manufacturing defect. Now they're going to say that it's society's fault. They're going to say it's everybody's fault but theirs. But you raised your child, either you raised them or you didn't raise them properly. That child has your genetics, your nurturing or lack thereof. You set this whole thing in motion. Whatever upbringing I got from you, you set that whole course of events that will impact their behavior into adulthood. So you manufacture a defective product. Now your defective product is in the neighborhood terrorizing people, making other people miserable. The very child that you said was going to become a doctor or the next president is shooting up the community, stealing, harassing people, everything but being productive. Failure to warn. Why didn't you warn us that your child was going to become a narcissist? Why didn't you warn us that your child was going to become a criminal? You have a duty to warn us because you created this product. Why didn't you warn us that you were a defective parent? Because if you did warn us, and if we actually had to say, we probably would have said you probably shouldn't have children. But no, you said it was nobody's business. You said we should stay out of it, right? And by the way, in a state of nature, maybe we would stay out of it, but you're the one who supports democracy, you support statism, you support all these social institutions which negatively impact us all. So you can't have it both ways. Again, if you were in a state of nature, I would have no objection, but we don't live in a state of nature. It's everybody's damn problem. So when you create a person who becomes destructive, abusive, predatory, or chronically harmful to others, you owe a moral debt to all of us. Your child is not just yours. Your child becomes society's problem. You owe a debt to the co-workers who had to stay late to cover for the fact that you couldn't carry your own weight. You owe a moral debt for the narcissist who makes your other co-workers a living hell. Their lives a living hell, excuse me. You owe a debt to the partners who end up with these narcissists who didn't know. Because again, you had a duty to warn, but you didn't warn anybody that your child was a narcissist, right? So they were misled, they were love bombed, they got into these abusive relationships. Maybe they were even battered. Did you warn anybody about that? Did you warn? Because the warning signs were there. This didn't come out of nowhere. Your child had the signs were written on the wall. You did not warn anybody. And now your son, now your daughter is out here running amok. And so, of course, your excuse is going to be, I did my best. But no, you didn't want our opinion. You said it was none of our business. So you didn't do your best because we probably could have had, if we had some input, maybe we could have told you a better way to do it. Maybe we would have told you not to have children at all, or maybe have fewer children, or maybe we would have given you different approaches to parenting. But you said it was none of our business. And now your defense is, I did my best. That is not a legal defense to product liability. In fact, for certain products that are considered extraordinarily dangerous, there is strict liability. Strict liability means that if you are the manufacturer, you are strictly held liable regardless of your intent, regardless of your best efforts. And I would say that a human being in a civilized society is probably the most dangerous products that you can create. And yet people don't take their roles as parents seriously. There are no bad children, there are only bad parents. I've said this many times. The potter is responsible for the pot, the creator is responsible for the creation. The same thing people will say about like pet owners. Like, there's no such thing as a bad dog. It's only a bad dog owner. You didn't discipline your dog. I mean, the difference is that you didn't create the dog, you just adopted it. But in this context, if you're a biological parent, it's even worse because you created that child out of nothing. Now that child has grown up to become a monster. They have your DNA, they have your nurturing. So the nature and the nurture are both your fault. Parenting is the most single influential force on a child's development. Parents are the primary socializers, the architect of a child's nervous system. Parents set a permanent blueprint for how their children will become. And yet it's somehow everybody else's fault. So I would say no. You said it wasn't our business. Of course it's our business. Of course it is our business. Oh, Pastor D, I didn't expect you to be up so late, but I'm glad that you are. Right. Um, while I'm going through these comments, I guess I can post a link. I don't know if anybody wants to express their opinions because, like I said, this topic does affect everybody. If you procreate, you are affected. I'm not going to bring you up yet because I'm going to go through these comments, but I'm going to post the links so anybody can contribute if they want to. %60 of my property taxes go to public schools. But it's not your business, right? That's what they say. Right. Where's my tax cut? Where's my tax credit? And by the way, they always want to shame the LGBT community for not procreating. No, we're actually subsidizing your lifestyle. So you probably should be thanking us for being child free. It absolutely does. We should get our own discounts on everything. We should get discounts when we go to restaurants. We should get discounts for the tolls, for taxes, all of it. Healthcare. Hi against like 1,000. Parents do the crime, children do the time. Right, that's true. That's true. Children do the time, but in this context, society also has to pay for it. Society has to pay for the consequences of them to procreate. It does not exist in a vacuum. I'll usually bum cigarettes or some pocket change, but I'm the help myself, so I tell them straight, I can't help you. Right, and I want you to listen to this story. I used to be so compassionate, and I would listen. I would feel sorry for them and give them my money. I'm not doing that anymore. It's not that I don't have any empathy, but I'm tired of sacrificing because there were times when I didn't have any money, and it's just like, oh, that $20 that I gave to that person, I could have actually used that because you think that if you help people, that there'll be somebody there to help you. No, You give your money away, you have just squandered it, and now when you need it, it's like you just wasted it. So I didn't create those people. They're not my children. Like I was going into a CVS the other day, and this guy was outside begging for money. He looked like he was no more than 18 years old. I just kept walking, but what I was thinking was, where are your parents? Where are your parents? Why are you homeless at 18 years old, however old you are? I guess your parents just kicked you out as soon as you became a legal adult. Like your parents didn't give a fuck about you, so now it's my responsibility. Right, right. I mean, I don't want to get too political on y'all because they do spend money to foreign countries. So if they're going to spend, I would say they shouldn't be spending money at all. But if they're going to spend money to fund foreign countries and foreign wars, then it probably should be spent at home. But I don't think it necessarily should be spent on those who procreate. Like we should be getting refunds or we should be getting tax cuts. Land of the free and home of the slave. That is a word, that is a statement to be quoted. All paid for by taxes, exactly. Well, yeah, but unfortunately, it takes men to create single mothers, and yeah, so unfortunately, because they are women, they're going to be the primary. See, when I had that whole live stream and they said that it is 50-50, that men are just as responsible as the women, I got all this pushback, and yet they do blame the single mothers for raising their children without. That's what I'm saying. Of course, it falls on the woman. It's 99 to 1. Um, the father a lot of times is nowhere in the picture, so you just see the single mother. But the father played a role in this too. Right? They're not competent parents in many cases. I don't know. I'm just trying to get through this. I'm just trying to get through this hellscape. I don't know how I'm doing. I just take it day by day. That's a complicated question, and I wish I had a better answer, but I don't know. Don't forget the prison system that costs north of 45K a year per defective product of the womb. Yeah, I've talked about this before. It is expensive to keep people in prison, but it's a little bit misleading because these people, they're actually more productive. A lot of them are more productive in prison than they would be outside of prison. They're basically being used as slave labor for private corporations. They are generating at least the amount of cost they are to the taxpayers. Um, they're only being paid like 20 cents an hour or something like that. So yeah, there's that. Yes, they do. Yeah, I think that my stray cat, I think she had another litter and they're just still in hiding, but I've been trying to give her extra food because you can just tell when she loses weight and then her body fat becomes very loose. That usually means that she had another litter. So I'll try to get her some extra food. Mm, okay. I do love cats myself. I'm not particularly crazy about dogs though. All right, y'all. I'm almost done. So if you guys want to come up, this you're almost at the end of this. So this shit is truly vile. I cannot fathom thinking procreation is ethical in any manner. No, it's not. It's not. And I've been trying to be fair and look at it from the other side to see how they can and I've debated so many people. I've even tried to talk to AI and figure out what are their justifications. I just can't see it as being ethical. Um, it's not even necessary for survival anymore. I don't know. I don't know how they justify it other than I want a child. It makes me happy. Did your mom try to contact you on Mother's Day? Like, I've gone no contact with my mom. I've already changed my number like twice. She does not have my number. I'm not giving it to her. So she has no way to contact me. I don't want her to contact me. All right, y'all. So I guess I'm going to end this live stream, but you all have a good night. And remember, don't procreate.